Hey Insomniacs, it's Hunter here, and we're back again with video 5 in the series for Season 1. Today we're going to be tucking the wiring harness on Pink.
Alright, besides about one close call on my brand new Milwaukee gloves, I did a pretty good job. What I've learned with the S14 and S13, which I love about their frame rail, is if you decide to do this wire tuck, go ahead and cut this part of your frame. Everybody's like, nah, don't do it, or just, it'll be fine to wrap it around it. Well, that adds tension to this wiring harness, and then people wonder why they have problems with their electrical. With as many problems as I've had with electrical, I'm not taking any chances. Plus, this looks a lot cleaner, looks a lot better when it's done. Trying to get a good angle so that it'll stop shining. But what I do is there's a spot weld right here and a little hole right here. What this is probably used for is the OEM harness has little zip ties, and this just clips to it. But then if your car is really low and you hit something and it rubs the bottom of your wiring harness, then you're messed up, you're screwed. So what I've learned to do is cut it before this and cut it after this spot weld, get it as close as I can to the body as possible. Now before you say, oh, he's cut into it, he's cutting the frame, blah, 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 I'm going to be welding this little gap that sometimes happens when you split. When you're sanding this down or cutting it down, I'll weld all that up, make sure it's a soft edge, and then I'll paint it and be able to zip tie it up. But as you can see, when I put my wiring harness on it, and it comes up here, it fits quite nicely. That's how it will look when it is done. This allows a little bit less tension on it. Obviously you can bend your frame rail, do whatever. I think this is the best method and the cleanest. And even on my track car, I'm going to try to make that fairly decent, fairly clean cut, because some things on this car are not going to be perfect. What work I can make pretty good, then I'm going to give my best quality work, especially for you guys that are watching at home and might be getting ideas off of my shenanigans. Before I start welding, I realized I also had one last thing to do, and that was to hammer out this bent area in the actual footwell. I also noticed on top of that I had a bend here, so I smacked it down with my sledge. 8-pound sledge, and the sound deadening just started coming off. So I don't know if that's supposed to happen, but I mean, being a 20-some-year-old car, 20-year-old car, yeah, I guess that's what's happening today. I didn't really care whether or not this car had the sound deadening in it. It's going to be a street car too, so I figured I'd leave it in there. But it looks like it's coming out, and it looks like I've breached the ground. Well, should look at that. nowhere am I a welder, and I'm gonna have to figure that out. But I'm pretty decent with a grinder. This is not my work. I just grounded down a whole bunch of boogers someone else put in here. We're not gonna talk about this after this video. I am going to weld up some of the cracks in the holes. Might even just put a pop grommet in that because there's wiring already behind that. But I've prepped this area too, just to be safe. It's going to get a tack weld or two, maybe a stitch. Just keep this a little bit stronger because obviously this is not ideal for me to be able to put fingers in there. Well guys, I can't make it up. My welding handle literally broke. Last video it just kept shooting wire out, and a simple trick to fix that, which I went ahead and done it, is if you don't have an abundance of springs, you can take a pin spring and take it out of a pin, take a pair of needle nose or some kind of metal cutters, cut it to make it fit, and put a new spring in your handle. Just a quick tip, just in case you don't have a hardware store that's open or need to weld something at night. This is a quick trick I use. Now the fun part for me is the ground, the little piece that connects to my handle and creates the full contact, has actually popped off of its rivet. The rivet's gone. So I realized that when I opened the handle, it had broken and fallen out on the ground, and I can't save it. What I'm going to do is probably use a super small superficial screw and just get it to self-tap into the plastic. But I'll let you know shortly, and then get back to welding.
Basically, what I'm doing here is I'm showing you with the spring in my hand, or the contact in my hand. I realized when I pulled the wand apart in the driveway, I actually had the whole thing explode. So what I'm doing is I figured to show you guys how I did it the first time, would teach you guys how to reuse springs out of a pin. So right now I'm taking the spring itself and putting it in between the fulcrum, between the contact and the actual trigger, and I'm getting a measurement there, and then I've taken the little brass piece and put it in the very end, because this is what that circular piece will connect to, being the contact on the inside of the trigger. What I'm doing is getting both these measurements to cut the springs not once but twice, due to using the pin spring I used is very weak. So I will end up taking these springs from the pin and intertwining them within each other so that they, one, will connect, and two, they will give me a better spring rate and better feel for the actual welding wand that I use. Since this little spring broke before, it immediately would contact out if I touched the trigger and not return the trigger into its factory location. So it would just sit there and continuously spool and feed wire out. So putting this extra little pin spring allowed me to continue welding for the night, save the night, and made it a whole lot easier than having to deal with waiting till morning, and I got the job done.
be your star tonight. You fill my soul with light the day we met. I don't wanna leave your side. Have me by your side when the sun sets. Let's leave for an eternity. We'll sail across the lights beyond the sky. I'll be with you eternally. I'm an addict for your love, it keeps me high.
Alright guys, so for the finished product, it's not too bad. I'm glad that I sealed up most of the split ends right there. I can't get it flat or perfect. I am definitely a grinder, not a welder. I am learning welding and electrical, which are my weak points. And for what I've done, this isn't my best work, but I'm improving, is what I would say. Any tips you guys can give me? I'm using a Hobart gasless MIG, and if anybody has tips for working with the magical, elusive, super thin Nissan metal, it'd be greatly appreciated. Or other setups. I've heard Hobart and Lincoln are both great brands, so I might even stick with the Hobart or go to a different setup. I'm learning this setup still, like I said, but what we've come out with, it's not going to be too sharp on the wiring loom. When I cut, I realized, like I said, it had split about right here where the flashlight, the end of it's actually pointing. So I built a little bit of the metal back. It's not easy. Welders definitely have an art. Same thing with any metal worker. It's definitely an art. And I'm hoping that I can improve my skills in the future. My patience and time frame with messing with it, I feel like with how the metal's gotten hot already, I might be doing more damage than it's worth to continue. So what I'm going to do is just sand and spray it to seal it, and I might come back at it a little later another day. With that being said, I realized my hood release is a little rusty, so I need to fix that. I had one little oopsie with the welder here. I saw it cherry down. As soon as it did, I moved it. It did not, from the looks of it, get any of the wires in there, but honestly I can't tell either, so we'll find out in a second when I try to put electrical power back to it. It looks clear. It looks like it just hit the first layer. There's 2 layers in here on this loom, but I even had to redo the hole because unfortunately it started to melt with the weld around it. But I'm happy to say for a drift car that is sealed up, it probably wasn't really anything structurally wrong with that. It's just more of a pet peeve to me, and I probably didn't do much better. But I'm excited to say I can paint it and zip tie this up now, and it feels better. There wasn't much of a difference to begin with, but it doesn't feel like I can push through it anymore, which that's what you want. I'll give it the old finger test real quick for any sharp edges. So you don't want your wiring harness getting cut on any of this. Feels like there's maybe a spot underneath I can touch up, but other than that I think this will be perfect for this harness. Just get up above there and sit like that. Only part you'll even really see, you won't even see this, is you'll see this. When I paint it, it'll look fine. I don't know if you can see that through my lovely phone, but it's clearly too cold to paint. But anyways, we're gonna paint. So to counteract it being way too cold and fisheye the paint to stay, I'm gonna use this very, very, very sketchy heat gun to heat up the metal, heat up the area, and heat up the primer, and at least get primer if I don't even get just the black on it. But that way we can get some kind of coverage so this does not rust. Because if this rusts, this will be a big deal later one day when I pull fenders off and it's just all gone right here. Obviously we don't want that, we're trying to counteract that, so I'll have a piece of cardboard to cover anything else, just spray the general area. I'm not even sanding the prep tonight because I already know it's going to happen here. I know with how cold it is, this is probably going to come up, but this is just going to give me a few extra days basically to keep the moisture, and I'll probably end up standing on this little nub that's not perfect right here that I'm showing with the heat gun. But I'm excited. It really is time to put this motor in. I've been waiting and building this motor for a while, and I keep talking about it, and I keep showing extra videos. So I feel like you guys should see this stuff, and if you guys, you know, are more into the learning about the things we do around here, I figured it's a perfect learning opportunity to show that you can paint in the cold. You're just not supposed to. Body prep, anything we do, there's always a reason behind the madness, and so this is one of those here. And I just wanted to show you guys, once you get it nice and hot, you can start getting the paint warmed up or shake it, get something laid on there to seal this, because that's one of the biggest things you'll combat with 240s is rust. And if I can keep it from starting, then I'm already ahead of the game. I might even cut it back to this notch right here. But with that being said, without further ado, let's get to painting, and see you guys on the flip side when it's done. Well, finished product, it came out pretty clean. So did the secondary and third repairs. I just stitch welded a little bit here. I was going to fill this hole with weld, but honestly I could just use rubber grommet. And that one I just did 2 stitch welds on. Somebody's already tried to weld it in the back before and they did not do a great job, so I think 2 little just pop tack welds would be good for it. The bottom came out a lot better than I thought it would. Looking at it from the top angle, it's not the prettiest because some of the metal did melt away, but I'm happy with it to say that nevertheless.